Welcome to the first half of section 2-3, which is going to be talking about carbon compounds. Organic chemistry is the study of all compounds that contain bonds between carbon atoms. And the chemistry that you're going to be taking at Craig High School, if you do next year, would be what's called inorganic chemistry. That just uses all of the other particular elements, but does not strictly focus on carbon. If you were to go into a science major in college, you would take inorganic chemistry, and then you would take a semester of organic chemistry. They can't have organic chemistry at Craig High School because the labs are on average 4 hours long, and I will explain that when we get to how all of these carbon molecules are put together. So let's look at the overview of carbon compounds. Carbon compounds include carbohydrates, lipids, nucleic acids, and proteins. So there are 4 carbon compounds. Carbohydrates consist of sugars and starches. Lipids consist of fats and oils. Nucleic acids consist of nucleotides, and proteins consist of amino acids. These all contain, and if you look at the elements, they're extremely similar. Carbohydrates will only contain carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. Lipids only contain carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. Nucleic acids contain carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and then you'll add on nitrogen and phosphorus. And proteins contain carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and then nitrogen. So in the first half, we're going to talk about carbohydrates and lipids. In the second part, we'll talk about nucleic acids and proteins. First of all, the chemistry of carbon. Carbon atoms have 4 valence electrons that form covalent bonds. And if you recall from your physical science class, valence electrons are these 4 where bonds can form with the particular element. Those 4 are in the outer shell of the carbon element. And if you also remember when we talked about covalent bonding, once again, that means we're going to share electrons. Carbon can bond with itself, or it also bonds with hydrogen, oxygen, phosphorus, sulfur, and nitrogen. Carbon-carbon bonds can be single, double, or triple covalent bonds. And we talked about the difference between single, double, or triple covalent bonds in a previous section from this chapter. Macromolecules. The word macro itself, or the prefix macro, means giant or very, very large. So macro means giant. A macromolecule is a giant molecule made from thousands or hundreds of thousands of smaller molecules. The process that puts these together is called polymerization. If you look at the prefix poly, poly means many. So polymerization is the process in which smaller units are joined together to make large units. A monomer, and mono itself means single, is the smaller units that get put together to make what is called a polymer. And poly, once again, means many. Sometimes the units that are linked together are identical. And if you look at the watch band, the links look the same. And sometimes the units are different, like these different beads in a necklace. So either you're linking identical units together or you can link different units together in order to make a polymer. So the first one we're going to start with is carbohydrates. A carbohydrate is a compound made up of, once again, carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen in a 1 to 2 to 1 ratio. This is very important to remember this particular definition because when we get into lipids, it has the exact 3 elements, but in a different ratio. Carbohydrates are the main source of energy for all living things. Now we're going to go through the different types of carbohydrates. Once again, you're looking at the word mono, which means one. So a monosaccharide is a very simple sugar. So that's the smallest, or this is the monomer for carbohydrates. Examples of monosaccharides are glucose, which come from photosynthesis in plants and cellular respiration in animals. The second monomer is galactose, and galactose, and you can see the lac in that, comes from milk. And the third type of monosaccharide is fructose, and that comes from fruit and is the sweetest of all of the monosaccharides. And you've probably heard of high fructose corn syrup. There's where that sugar comes from right there. Disaccharide, and di stands for 2. And in a disaccharide, it's 2 monosaccharides put together. So examples of disaccharides are going to be sucrose, and sucrose is the table sugar, is your simple table sugar. Sucrose is 2 glucose molecules put together. Lactose is milk sugar, and that is a combination of glucose and galactose. And you may have heard of people that are lactose intolerant. What that means when they're lactose intolerant is because lactose is a disaccharide. You can't break these down because your body can only use sugar in its simplest form. So if it's a disaccharide, it has to break this down into a glucose and a galactose. And people who are lactose intolerant cannot break down the lactose sugar. So if they're going to have a dairy product that contains lactose, what they have to do is they have to take some sort of pill that is going to help their body break down lactose into glucose and galactose. A polysaccharide, and remember poly means many, is formed from 3 or more monosaccharides. And remember, monosaccharide is the monomer, or the single unit, for carbohydrates. There are 3 types of polysaccharides. Glycogen, which is stored glucose or animal starch. Starch, which is stored glucose or plant starch. And the third one is cellulose, which gives plants strength and rigidity. So once again, and these have to be in order for your body. This is where you get your storage from. So when athletes are eating their pasta dinners, they're getting this from the pasta that they're eating because it takes your body longer to break the starch down. That's why they eat the pasta the night before. So when they're ready to participate in whatever athletic competition, they will have plenty of glucose to use to give them energy to play the game, because these three are all stored carbohydrates. The second category out of the four that we're going to talk about is lipids. And a lipid is a fatty acid compound made of, once again, those three: carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. So it's still made of the three, but in carbohydrates the ratio is 1 to 2 to 1. The monomer for lipid is a fatty acid. So once again, the monomer for a lipid is a fatty acid. Lipids come in three types. They would be triglycerides, and examples of triglycerides are going to be your oils, which are liquid at room temperature, and these are found in plants. So here's your vegetable oil. The other one is going to be your fats, which are solid at room temperature. These are found in animals, are your butters, things that come from cows. Waxes is one of the three types of lipids. Waxes are long chains of fatty acids joined to an alcohol chain. And then the third type of lipid is a steroid. Steroids don't dissolve in water and are found in hormones, nerve tissue, toad venom, and plant poison. So once again, steroids, waxes, and triglycerides are the three types of lipids. What is the function of a lipid? Lipids are important parts of biological membranes, for example, the cell membrane, and they are also very important waterproof coverings. So because they have that fatty substance to it, they're going to make up parts of your skin, cells, and also, once again, the cell membrane. There are two types of lipids when it comes to how they are joined together. There's what is called the saturated lipid, and saturated is used when the fatty acids, and remember, fatty acid is the monomer of a lipid, are joined together by a single bond. So saturated is your single bond fatty acids joined together. Unsaturated is used when there is at least one carbon-to-carbon double bond. So unsaturated is used when there is a carbon-to-carbon double bond within that particular lipid. Examples of an unsaturated lipid would be olive oil. The third type, which I'm sure you've heard of before, is polyunsaturated, and is when there is more than one double bond. Remember, poly means many. So these are many double bonded carbon-to-carbon lipids. Examples of polyunsaturated fats or lipids is corn oil, sesame oil, and peanut oil. This concludes section 2-3, part 1 video.